And welcome to this week's edition of Power and Politics. I'm Rich Barrabi. It was a time-stopping moment for the nation, the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. We've all seen the videos and the pictures. Trump was addressing the crowd at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, when gunshots went off. The former president was clipped in the ear by a bullet. 2 people died, including the shooter and 1 man who was killed shielding his family. 2 people were also hurt, but are now in stable condition. It has been raising many questions about security and safety, but also the future of the presidential campaign. Despite it all, the former president was in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention, where he accepted his 3rd nomination as the Republican nominee for president. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance also accepted the GOP nomination for vice president. Joining me now to break it all down is former Congressman Peter King. Congressman, good to see you as always. What are your thoughts on everything that's taken place? But I guess let's start with the convention. Your view on how it played out and the unity that was on full display, which is not always the case in the Republican Party. It was not the case with Donald Trump's first go-around.
Yeah, thank you, Rich, for having me here today. You know, you're right. This was some exciting convention. And I'm not just using that word in a trivial way. I mean, I went to my first convention back in 1984. I couldn't make this one because my wife is recovering from surgery and doing very well, by the way. But I watched every second of it on television. It was talking to everyone who was out there, whether it was Esposito, Cairo, Bruce Blakeman, finding out what was going on behind the scenes. And I've seen maybe a situation where the Republican Party was united, like behind Reagan in '84. But I've never seen this level of enthusiasm. That's the way it looked on television. And from speaking to people who were there, you figure guys like Blakeman and Cairo, they've been around forever. They know this. And for them to be that excited and to say that you could feel the electricity on the convention floor really says something. And that means whether it's an extra 1 point or 2 points or 3 points in November, that means something to have an enthusiastic party, a dedicated party. And remember, the last election, despite whatever number of votes Trump lost by, I think it came down to 36,000 votes in 3 states. Could have switched it all around. So, yeah, that intensity really means something, and it's amazing. Donald Trump was the outsider. Even in 2016, when he was the nominee, a lot of people there, certainly the party leaders, were not fans of Donald Trump. Now he controls the Republican Party from top to bottom, and he's really beloved by the party workers and people on the ground.
And for the convention to take place just days after the assassination attempt, and to consider what could have been. The former president said he's lucky to be alive. He shouldn't have been there. And yet he was. It seemed like that was even more of a reason for Republicans to not just rally behind the former president to go after the presidency again, but also to be thankful that he was standing there.
Yeah, this was almost out of a movie, Rich. I mean, again, it's tragic that poor firefighter Corey Imperatore was killed. I mean, that's a reality. 2 people seriously wounded. That's another reality. But the other part of it is to have President Trump literally come within a millimeter of being dead. People seeing it on national television, and then rising with the blood coming out from his face, raising his fist in the air, having that presence of mind. That was really leadership under pressure. And not to make this political, but I guess it was Van Jones, who was a Democratic consultant or advisor, saying that what epitomized the week was that a bullet couldn't stop President Trump, but a virus could stop Joe Biden. Maybe that's unfair, but that was really the impression that came out. And to have Trump come back with a bandage on his ear, to appear at the convention like a conquering hero, it was, again, it was out of reality television. So it was like Donald Trump took reality TV and made it, and literally made it real on the national political and in the world scene. The whole world saw him standing there with his fist in the air. I mean, just think if that were you or I. First of all, to have survived the shooting is one thing. You figure your blood pressure would be sky high, you'd be full of adrenaline, you wouldn't know what to do. But here the president to get up and really insist on letting the Secret Service have him put his fist in the air like that and show defiance and courage. It was really a moment in history.
Yeah, it's certainly an iconic moment that will always be remembered in the history books. And then in the convention, there was clearly an effort to demonstrate the strength of the former president, and again, just walking into that convention hall a couple of days after he nearly lost his life. But also in terms of some of the speakers that were selected, from Hulk Hogan to Dana White, there was clearly an effort to exude strength, to exude toughness. What do you think about that strategy?
I think it's what the American people want, so long as it's kept under control, and it was kept under control at the convention. And I mean, that is legit. Now I can name drop. I went to the UFC fights at Madison Square Garden in 2019 with President Trump. Dana White was there. He follows it. He knows all those. I'm more of a boxing fan than a UFC fan, but he's into it. I mean, he is a real sports guy. He was involved with Mike Tyson fights with Don King going back years ago. He was involved with Ali. So he is a boxing fan. He is a sports fan. He owned a pro football team for a while. So it was legit, but it could also then have all fallen apart. But the fact that he was able to bring it all to life, with that iconic moment. I hate to make the comparison, almost like Iwo Jima, with the flag, where he raised his fist in the air. So the toughness fitted in with reality.
Then there was, on the flip side of it, an effort to show the former president's softer side through members of his family. One of the most speeches that will certainly be remembered of his granddaughter, talking about her love for her grandfather, how they played golf together. I guess my question is will this be effective for people to look at a so-called softer side of former President Trump, or is he mainly defined at this point? People view him either favorably or not after him being in the spotlight for all these years at this point.
Well, I think he's always going to be known primarily as the tough guy. Having said that, and my wife Rosemary has said this a number of times, there is a softer side to him. I mean, I saw it when my daughter was sick, that he was constantly on the phone talking about it. I've seen him reach out to people who have injuries, and you talk to cops or firemen who've been helped by him over the years. So there is that side of him. And Rosemary always said, why can't he show this publicly? So he is showing it publicly. But on the other hand, bottom line is he's a tough guy. He's more Hulk Hogan than he is Mr. Rogers. But he is still a tough guy with a real compassionate side, a real human side to him.
All right, let's talk about the vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, from the middle of the country, Ohio, former Marine, Yale educated, but really playing on a populist platform, trying to appeal to folks in middle America. What do you think of the pick of Vance as vice presidential?
Yeah, he would not have been my first choice. I think there's some of his foreign policy views are too isolationist. Having said that, I still would support him over any of the Democrats, so I'll strongly support the ticket. I think politically he is going to help, people in Pennsylvania, people in Michigan, people in Wisconsin are going to be able to identify with that almost like tough coal mining type attitude, the guy who comes from Appalachia. No, we talk about it. Very few of us have ever been to Appalachia. We don't know people from Appalachia. But I know when I was in Congress, you talk to members of Congress in those areas. That's almost been like the forgotten part of America. The world has moved on and Appalachia was left behind. So you have these small towns with very patriotic, hardworking people, but the factories are closed. They can't find work. They have addiction problems in those communities, as J.D. Vance admitted to his own mother, who was a drug addict and alcoholic who's now been clean for 10 years. But so that's a reality. And I think when people see J.D. Vance, there's a guy who can really identify, and people can identify with him, with the issues that affect them, that they will no longer be forgotten. Actually, it was probably Don Trump Jr. who said it best. He said, how can a guy from Trump Tower work so closely with a guy from Appalachia, except at the Trump Vance ticket? So it's really a coming together of America in so many ways, which is another reason why this convention worked perfectly. I mean, I've been in conventions where they don't work that perfectly, and people are walking out saying, what happened here? What went wrong? This one, everything went right. It was life, it was reality, it was politics. Everything matched.
Lastly, are you struck by the play by Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and the Republican Party as a whole to reach out to union workers, to blue-collar workers? This is something I remember you talking about 10, 15 years ago. You were saying these are voters that Republicans can appeal to. For whatever reason, it wasn't happening. They were part of your coalition here on Long Island. Now the Republican Party in general trying to reach those folks.
This was a masterstroke by President Trump. And I've been saying this for years. I remember being at the 2000 convention, holding a press conference outside with Jim Hoffa, head of the Teamsters, and almost begging, let these people be part of the process. You're not going to agree with them and everything, but the rank and file members are identified with many of the principles of the Republican Party. By having Sean O'Brien there, I thought it was a masterstroke that sent shockwaves through the White House. And from a sort of a selfish point of view, I wish I could have been there to see the looks on the faces of some of the Southern Republicans who have never seen a labor guy in their life. They don't like them. They want nothing to do with them. And to have Sean O'Brien up there, a tough Irish labor leader from Massachusetts, getting up there, but saying what a great guy Donald Trump was. This is what we have to do. Donald Trump did it. And let's face it, when he was at Trump Tower, when he was here in New York in construction, he dealt with those unions. They're tough guys. He's a tough guy. They didn't always agree, but they got the job done. And that's what America should be all about.
All right, former Congressman Peter King, thank you for joining us. We're glad to hear that your wife is on the mend and doing well, and we'll see you again soon.
Rich, thank you, Ryan. Always enjoy it. Thank you.
And still to come here on Power and Politics, will he or won't he? That is the big question now. Of course, we're referring to President Biden. Should he stay in the race, or will he bow to pressure from many in his own party who are saying, Joe, it's time to go? You're watching Power and Politics. We have a panel on this coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Will he or won't he? All eyes have been on the presidential race, of course, and it's only intensified following the Republican National Convention. But those eyes turn to the Democrat now, the incumbent President Joe Biden, and the calls from many of his own party, to step down from the race. The conversation only escalating now. So what happens next? Joining us, former Nassau County Executive Laura Curran and political analyst Mike Dawidziak. Good to have you both here. Thanks so much.
Hello.
Laura,
yeah.
You were talking about this a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And a lot of people in your party were not very happy that you were speaking about this openly, with concerns about the president and his ability to continue at his advanced age.
If they'd only listened to me, we wouldn't be in this pickle. No, a lot of people were thinking it. Sometimes, you say the quiet part out loud. And now we have a situation which is incredibly dynamic. It's changing by the minute. I've never seen news cycles turn so quickly. And we're all hearing the same news. They have all the leaked conversations, the top Democrats huddling. My opinion, I think the best thing to do, and I have thought this for a long time, is for the president to step down and to have a truly open convention with people who want to run. As we were saying before, I don't think this should be done in the smoke-filled back room. I think people have had enough of that. And I think this would actually bring a lot of energy back to the Democratic Party, which it needs right now.
Mike, he clearly does not want to do this. He wants to stay in the race, but does he have a path forward at this point?
Well, the other thing is that there's no way to force him out. I mean, this is his decision alone. There's no process. You can't invoke the 25th Amendment to get rid of candidates. So there is no process unless he steps aside. And the problem for the Democrats right now is they're badly, badly off message. There's an old trick question in politics of what's the most valuable commodity, campaign-wise, and the answer is time. And the Democrats are wasting valuable time being off message. They're not talking about their issues, while the Republicans are being very good about sticking to their two main issues, the two I's, immigration and inflation. The Democrats aren't talking about their issues at all. They're just talking about whether Joe Biden should stay on the ticket or not.
Laura, if the president does decide not to seek re-election, doesn't he have to endorse Kamala Harris? I mean, that was his choice to serve in the event that he could not.
I don't know if he really has to. I can see why one would think he has to, because obviously that was his choice and she's the one who could serve if he couldn't. I think it might serve the party better. He could say really great things about her, sort of endorse her without endorsing her, but say, I relinquish the delegates and I leave it up to you. And then let her, if she wants to do it, because, seems like it, but we don't know for sure, if she wants to do it, to enter the fray and have a true competition. Because even vice presidents have to run for president when it's their turn. It's not like they're anointed and appointed.
Mike, maybe that would give the current vice president more of a groundswell of support if she had to go through the process rather than just saying, okay, you're next in line, go ahead and give it a shot.
True, but of course the danger zone of an open convention is it could turn into a bloodbath. I mean, you've got a situation here now where there's going to be a faction of the party that says, let's get away from the coastal liberal elitist states, move more toward the middle of the country. Let's look at an Andy Bashir or an Amy Klobuchar or somebody like that. And then there's going to be a faction of the party who's going to say, well, if it's not Harris, why isn't it Harris? Is it because she's African American? And this could cause a lot of dissension within the party.
I would say, though, no guts, no glory. The path we're on now, with Biden at the top as the standard bearer, is not working. Anything is risky. Anything has downsides. But take a gamble. Go for it. This has a better shot of being successful, I think. Now, I could be proven completely wrong. We'll see. But that's how it seems to me.
Well, you know what it is that it's such a departure from the conventions.
But everything
like in
has
recent,
been,
oh,
right?
True. But in the conventions since the debacle of '68, the conventions have all been tightly orchestrated shows that are geared towards showing the party as unified and putting forward their messages. And this has the danger of showing the sausage getting made in a really bad way.
It does.
It's a gamble,
but
I don't know that there's a choice not to take a gamble.
It also has the opportunity of real excitement, because people are kind of done with the way things are. People are bored, they're checked out. Maybe this will inject some excitement and interest.
Oh, it'll be exciting. If it's an if it's an open convention, it will be exciting.
How do you think this sets up future elections, though? I mean, and for the Republican side as well, let's say Donald Trump wins the election. He could very well be in the same position, albeit he'll be finished. But you could have candidates in the future who have locked up a nomination and yet, for one reason or another, have to leave a race. Do you think this changes the process?
Well,
this was not a competitive primary. There were primaries in name only for President Biden.
That's right. That's right. But, you know, the process probably is going to be changing in the future. You're going to see a move more towards open primaries, you know, allowing more independents to vote in primaries in different states. New York will probably be the last one to change, but other states you're going to see the primary process changing and evolving. It already is in a lot of states.
Laura, I'll leave you the last word. Do you think Democrats will play to win here, or, as Mike says, will you see these different factions kind of stand their ground and ultimately come out of a potential open convention as a broken, distracted party?
We don't know. There's been an interesting kind of subplot to all this, where a lot of the top Democrats have been sort of whispering that they would rather just stick with Biden and lose, and then pick up their pieces, lick their wounds, and come back united and stronger after that. Then you have the faction who really wants to fight to win. It looks now that the fight to win people have an edge, but we'll see how it goes.
We've seen these situations here, even in state politics. The 2 or 3 wings of the Democratic Party not able to get on the same page, and it's hurt some candidates. It hurt your candidacy, quite frankly, when you ran for county executive.
Yeah, and sometimes, which we might have in this election, we might have the Republicans controlling Congress, both houses of Congress and the presidency. People don't really like one-party power, as we see here in New York, and we'll see what the backlash will be from that, if that happens. But that's many chess moves down the board.
If we've learned anything this election cycle, is that we really don't know what's coming next.
Exactly.
Laura, Curran, Mike Dawidziak, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Power and Politics. There were several speeches from some of the nation's most powerful leaders at the Republican National Convention, but one of the most impactful moments came from a mother from Long Island who brought the crowd to their feet. Our Kurt Semder spoke to her about her big night.
We need accountability for prosecutors who fail in their duty.
Madeleine Brame made the most of her moment on stage, receiving thunderous applause from thousands at the RNC Tuesday night.
It was overwhelming. It was powerful. It was sensational.
But the mother from Bellport wishes she didn't have to speak.
Our children need us to be their voice.
Brame's voice shaped by personal tragedy. Her nephew, shot and killed in Bellport in 2007.
It didn't just affect my immediate family. It affected everyone in this town.
Then her son, Army Sergeant Hassan Correa, was beaten and stabbed to death in Harlem 6 years ago. 4 people were charged. 2 were convicted of gang assault. 2, however, received plea deals with reduced charges. Brame said she felt that was a slap in the face by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
I thought that, I would find an ally in them, all right? But because my boy was stabbed to death and not shot to death, they just, they turned their back on me.
That anger towards Bragg, who led the case in which former President Trump was convicted of 34 felony charges, was with her Tuesday as she spoke.
Soft on crime prosecutors like Alvin Bragg in New York.
Brame is now an advocate, seeking more jobs, more drug treatment plans, and more protections for victims of crime. She believes it's what her son would want.
I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to keep coming back until we get full justice and closure for my son.
Kurt Semder, News 12 Long Island.
The parents of Plainview native Omer Nutra also took the stage at the Republican National Convention. As we've reported, the 22-year-old tank commander was taken hostage by Hamas militants on October 7th. That was more than 200 days ago, nearly 300, and his parents have not heard from him since. But they're still holding out hope, and they're continuing their plea for the safe return of their son.
Over 9 months, not knowing whether your son is alive, waking up every morning, praying that he too is still waking up every morning, that he is strong and is surviving.
During the speech, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman joined Omer's parents and the crowd in a chant of "Bring him home." That's all the time we have this week on Power and Politics. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rich Barrabi. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.